Hello, and welcome to the Pricing on the Cake, the podcast that's all about growing a profitable business confidently. My name is Courtney Rogers. I'm an award-winning business coach, and on today's episode, I'm going to be sharing the 6 steps to take at your end-of-year review to make sure that the next year or the next period that you're going into is more profitable. Today's episode is sponsored by Path to Profit. Path to Profit is my group coaching membership for women who want to move away from overwhelm, confusion, and fear to a place where they feel confident and clear, turning their business into a profitable asset that gives them the income and freedom they want in life. So let's jump right into today's episode, starting with step number 1, and that is to review. I want you to review the last year, the last quarter, whatever period of time that you're looking at. And I want you to ask yourself a few questions. What went well? What didn't go well? Look at the goals that you set for the year. Did you set those goals based on your ego, or were they based on your mission? Were they based on what someone else told you that you should do, and so you wanted to impress them, or you felt like you should? Or was it based on what you know is true to your values? What are you doing right now in your business that you need to let go of? And what are you not doing that you need to start doing? And also, what needs to change in your mind and behavior to get you to where you want to be? Now, these are really big questions, but they are so important, and they're going to go a long way in helping you to reflect on the year that's been and help you make decisions about the year ahead. And lastly, the last thing you want to check is how profitable was this last year or this last quarter. Now, you can work this out by dividing your profit dollar amount by your income dollar amount. Generally, I say anything less than 10% is a red zone. This is an unhealthy profit level. It doesn't really give your business room to grow, doesn't give you room to outsource or hire support. It doesn't give you a lot of room for your own income. 20 to 30% is good, and anything that's 30 or 40% and over is amazing. Step number 2 is to work out whether the income you're earning is healthy or unhealthy. Big truth here, not all income is good income. Let me say that again. Not all income is good income. If you undercharge, you are giving away capacity, energy, and time to a project or person that you could be earning more from. In pricing, we call this lost revenue or revenue given up. So healthy income is profitable, it's generally consistent, it's scalable, it's energy giving, and it's aligned with your values. Conversely, unhealthy income is where you're undercharging or it's not profitable. Generally, it's spontaneous, although spontaneous income isn't always bad, but it's one thing that we look for. If all of your income is spontaneous income, that's not healthy for a business. It's energy draining, and it's something that's not aligned with your values. So how do we diagnose healthy versus unhealthy income in your business? What I want you to do is to download your profit and loss for the year or for the quarter or the period that you're looking at. Identify your total income for that time. Work out the percentage contribution of each type of product or service that you sell. Now, from the highest percentage contributor to the lowest, ask yourself, does this offering energize me? Do I enjoy it? Is it scalable? Is it easy or hard to sell? Then you can decide based on your answers to those questions, which products or services feel good and right to keep into the next year or next period, and which ones will you leave out and which ones will you change. Step number 3, review your messaging so you know you're attracting the right clients. This has got to be one of the biggest problems that I hear about from women who come to me and talk to me about the struggles they're having in their business. They'll often say things like, I just can't get enough clients, or I'm attracting a lot of clients, but they're people who don't really value what I do and they don't feel like the right clients for me. So it's a really common problem. If you're in this position, please know you are not alone. Now, when we're looking at your messaging, we want to focus on something called market segmentation. Market segmentation is where we choose a target audience and we align our marketing, our messaging to them. Now, traditionally, this is done by demographic, but I want you to go even further on this. I want you to focus on your target audience's problems. What problems do your clients have that your offering solves? Now, you do need to be careful here. Most people will answer with things that are from their own perspective of the problem, but you need to think about it from your client's point of view. What do they say when they come to you? When they first come to you and have an inquiry, what do they say? Right now, let's say, for example, you're a website designer. You might say that the problem is that their website isn't user friendly, but that's might not be what people are saying when they come to you. They probably come to you and say, my website doesn't look professional. My website isn't bringing me customers. Really think about the problems from your customer's point of view. The other reason that focusing on problems is really important is that when you start to talk about the problem and talk about the results and how that problem goes from being a problem present in your client's life to being solved, using problem language signals attentiveness, expertise, and confidence. And this in turn increases willingness to pay. So if you are looking at ways to increase your customers' willingness to pay, this is a really, really good way of doing it. And this, of course, leads me to step 4, which is work out your customer's willingness to pay. Now, I define willingness to pay as the dollar value that represents the perceived value a person has for your product or service. Let me say that again, because I know that it's a mouthful. Willingness to pay is the dollar value that represents the perceived value that a person has for your product or service. Now, you'll notice in that sentence I mentioned perceived value. Because willingness to pay is based on perception, this means it's subjective and open to influence. If I hold up a pen to you and I say, what's your willingness to pay for this pen? You might only say 50 cents or $1. But if I tell you that this pen was given to me by Oprah, all of a sudden, your willingness to pay might have changed. It might have gone up or it might have gone down, depending on how you feel about Oprah. But you can see how I have influenced your perception just by giving you some different information, different context. Another great way to find out your customer's willingness to pay is to do testing. So test slightly higher prices with new customers. This can be done by laddering. This can be done, once a year, you do a price increase. And then B, the other way to find out is to survey and ask them. If they've worked with you before and they're not likely to work with you again, ask a question like, knowing what you know now about the work that I've done with you, what do you think you would have paid for this service? Another question, if they're a current client or customer, is to ask, what do you think other people would pay for this product or service? Step 5 is to make sure that you are using value-based pricing. We know from so much research that value-based pricing is the most profitable pricing strategy. If you are not using value-based pricing, if you're using something else, if you're using, an hourly rate or cost plus pricing or anything like that, please, please, please switch to value-based pricing. The biggest thing I want you to know here is that pricing tells a story. Okay, I want you to imagine that you walk into a car yard and you go into the car yard and you see all these cars that have 70K, 80K stickers on them. Then you come across a car that has a $500 sticker on it. What's the first thing that comes to mind? It's a lemon. It's shit. It's unreliable. It's not going to work. And yet you know nothing about this car. All your brain has done is seen a number and come up with a story about that car. Your customers do the exact same thing when they come across your pricing. Now, as I mentioned earlier, market research, asking your customers is a really great way to find out their willingness to pay. It's also the secret to perfect value-based pricing. This sort of market research should be done at least yearly. So whether it's a survey or a phone call, you can ask for feedback and reviews, which should be asked for during offboarding for every single customer you have. You can do market research in a lot of different ways. It doesn't have to be fancy. It doesn't have to be technical. You can use forms, surveys, phone calls, polls, posts, emails, whatever. It doesn't matter. As long as you are talking to your customers frequently about what they value and about how you can improve their experience, this is going to help you to create really great value-based pricing. And lastly, on that note, I want you to think about this question. How much money could you be leaving on the table because you're not using value-based pricing? I'll give you an example. Let's say, for example, that you make chairs for a living. They cost you $10 and you take the traditional markup rate of, tripling that to $30. But let's say that your customer's willingness to pay is $50 for the chair or even $40. If it's $50, that means every time you sell a chair, you're leaving $20 on the table. So you can see here that the gap between other pricing strategies and value-based pricing can potentially be huge, especially if you're selling high-ticket items or large volume of items. And lastly, but certainly not least, step 6 is about mindset and confidence. Growing a profitable business, and I know this is going to be, a real big shocking truth, growing a profitable business does not start with having the right social platforms or having 1,000 funnels or having a team. Having a profitable business starts in your mind. Because to be really frank with you, I can give you all the strategy in the world and all the funnels and all the templates and all the steps in the world. But if your mindset holds you back, if fear holds you back, you won't take action and you won't see any results or growth. Here are some truths I really, really want you to know when it comes to mindset and confidence. You are the only one stopping you from charging higher prices. I'm going to bet that there is no one else in your life who's saying to you, you can't charge higher prices. It's going to be a thought in your mind. You are the only one stopping you. There is no pricing police, not even me, right? I'm not going to knock on your door and be like, why aren't you charging X, Y, Z? No, that doesn't happen. You are the only one stopping you from charging those higher prices. Secondly, the thoughts, feelings, and doubts you experience is likely based on fear. Our brains are driven to protect us and help us survive. That's why we feel fear around certain things that feel risky, like raising our prices. When you can start to recognize this and acknowledge it, it can become so much easier to manage that fear and take actions that are logical and feel right to you. Thirdly, ask yourself, of the things that you fear happening, do you actually have any evidence that it will definitely happen? So a lot of people will say to me, I'd really love to raise my prices, Courtney, but I'm worried that all my clients will just say, no, too expensive and leave me. And I go, okay, well, what evidence do you have that that will happen? And all of the time they say, I actually have no evidence of that happening. And, I will be really honest. Yes, some people might say no, and that's okay, because guess what? When you get a no, it's not a rejection, it's a gain. You gain capacity to now go and work on other things, whether it's in your business or a new client who will pay you more because they value you more, or maybe working on yourself or spending more time with your family. Stop seeing the no as rejection and start seeing it as a gain. And lastly, this is a quote that I love from Denise Duffield Thomas: I serve, so I deserve. When you're working on a proposal, when you're working on your packages, or you're looking at your pricing, or you're going into a sales call, I want you to say that to yourself. I serve, so I deserve. Like I say, everything in pricing is about fairness. It should be win-win. If you are serving someone, doing an amazing job for someone, you absolutely deserve to be paid well for it. You absolutely deserve that. And that's it, the 6 steps to take to ensure the next year or quarter is more profitable. Now, at the time of recording this, it is the end of 2021 and we're going into 2022. But like I said earlier, this can be applied to any year, any quarter, any period that you're looking at. This really should be part of an end of year or end of period review. I hope that this episode has given you some great insight and some practical things that you can do in your business right now, even to get on track toward a more profitable year or period next year. If you did enjoy this episode, subscribe to hear more content around growing a profitable business confidently. And if you do have a business best friend or someone you think would benefit from this episode, please share it with them, because you never know how it might help someone. If you'd like even more free content and also some really funny memes, then I'd love to invite you to join my free Facebook group, The Pricing on the Cake. It's a beautiful and bustling community of women who, like you, are growing their business and growing themselves. If you would like to get in touch with me, you can do that anytime by sending me an email to admin@courtneydeegan.com. I hope you have a fabulous day, and as always, happy pricing.